I'm Anthony from Learning to Play the Guitar. In this video we're going to look at 10 easy rock riffs from the easiest to the hardest. I teach these guitar riffs to a lot of my beginner students as a fun way of learning how to read tab and get your fingers moving across the fretboard and picking different strings. What were the easiest rock riffs that you learned when you started on guitar? The first riff here is the Peter Gunn theme, which was used in the Blues Brothers movie. With the Peter Gunn theme, we're just playing the whole thing on one string, which is the top 6 E string here. And so the riff is nice and slowly 0, 0, first finger on 2, 0, second finger on 3, 0, little finger on 5, and third finger going back to 4. So you can see here that I've used all my 4 fingers to play the riff. So the purpose of that is we're coordinating our 4 fingers to each have a go and to develop strength calluses for a beginner as well, and just basic coordination. You could cheat and do a 1-finger version, but it's really better to work on getting your 4 fingers to go together, just as I had before. Riff number 9 in my list here is also a single string riff. Another One Bites the Dust by Queen. For Another One Bites the Dust, I'm playing this again just on the 1 string, the same E string again in the bass here, and I've actually made it a little bit easier by playing it in the key of E, so it's actually a fret lower than you hear on the Queen recording. And so the notes we're dealing with here are fret 5, fret 3, and an open E string. So third finger on 5, first finger on 3, open E string. This one's a little bit tougher, mainly because there's a bit more of a complicated rhythm here, sounding like having a rest, again, a little rest, you can also notice that I'm muting the open E string in between the parts there, so we don't end up with the string ringing out, so we have a rest with a gap. So instead of going, you can make it sound a bit cleaner by muting, by just touching the fingers lightly on the string in between those 3 E notes before it goes to the second part of the riff. Next up, we're going to look at a riff that changes across a different bunch of strings, which will be Seven Nation Army by the White Stripes. For Seven Nation Army, we're now going to graduate to playing a riff on multiple strings. So instead of just playing on 1 string, we're going to jump across different strings, and this involves, for beginners, getting the pick to match where the finger should be. And here I'm just going to use the first finger and my second finger to play the entire thing, but again we're going to jump across different strings. So first up we have first finger on fret 2 on the D string, which is the 4th string up from the floor, and I'm going to pluck 2 of these notes. Next note is open G, which is the 3rd string down, nothing on it. Back to where we started, first finger fret 2 on the D 4th string, open that open that D string, no fingers. Then second finger on fret 3 on the A string, which is string number 5 from the floor. And last note's same string, first finger right next door on fret 2. So 2 fingers but 3 different strings. So we'll just do this again. So this is simplified a little bit from the original version played by the White Stripes. One more time. Riff number 7 is another single string riff, but it's a little bit harder to play, mainly because of the rhythm. So this is, of course, Satisfaction by the Rolling Stones. With satisfaction, we're going to go back to playing a one-string riff, but here I'm just going to use 2 fingers. The challenge here is the rhythm, and there's a little slide in the middle of it. So I'll just play it again, slowly for you. And so here, the first finger is going to be hitting the first number 2 fret note here on the A string. Going to pluck it again. Third finger on 4, slide around to the 5th fret. And we're hitting that once, of course, and then again, and then we've got 2 more. And then back to fret 4 for 2 hits, and a single number 2 note on the end. And so I've got a little trick to help get those notes in the correct order, because even though everyone has heard this probably a lot on the radio, etc., it's actually quite hard to play the rhythm correctly for this riff. So my trick to this is to be counting the notes in groups. So I like to think of this as 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1. So I've broken it up into little sections. So one more time. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1. Next up we have the classic riff that everyone learns starting out on guitar, Smoke on the Water by Deep Purple. With the Smoke on the Water riff, we're dealing with double stops, where we're stopping 2 strings with the one finger, or playing 2 strings in general. On the original version, he's using his fingers, but we'll stick with the guitar pick here as a beginner exercise. So it's all based around the middle 2 strings, the D and the G strings. And to be able to accurately pick just those 2 strings, that hitting the neighbour strings is a good little exercise in itself. And so then the riff is the double 0. Now I'm going to have double 3. It's all the same strings, but I'm going to squash or do a mini bar, squashing 2 strings with my one finger in the middle. And then the next thing is the double 5. Third finger will grab those, double 5, open the strings again, 3s again, 6, my third finger, slide it back to the 5, 0, first finger 3, 5, 3, 0. One more time. The next bit of classic rock I got here is Sunshine of Your Love by Cream. I've made this version a little bit easier to play, just using single string notes all the way through. For the Sunshine of Your Love riff, I'm actually going to simplify it down to single notes. In the original Cream version, they're actually playing shapes based around bar chords up here for D, but we're going to simplify it down to single notes of D and C down here on fret 3 and fret 1. So to play this riff, we've got to cross 3 strings, and so it sounds like this: 3, 3, 1, 3, 2, 1, open G, open D string, number 3 on the D string, and then open D string again. So we're crossing 3 different strings, and this actually runs down what's known as the blues scale, in this case in the key of D. So one more time. One more time. Following that, we're now moving into the 90s with Come As You Are by Nirvana. This riff is a good one to learn because here we can employ outside picking, where we're going to pick down on the E string and up on the A string in part of the riff, and coordinating that within your riff picking. So far most of these riffs I'm quite fine with people just down picking, but now we're going to try and down up pick. So up on the A string basically, down on the E string. So it sounds like this, of course: 0, 0, 1, 2, down, up on the open A string underneath. I'm hanging on to my number 2 note here on top. And then we're going to go 2, open A string underneath, 2, 2, 1, open E string, number 2, up. Now down, down, up. So I've got that outside thing happening there and there. So I'll do it one more time. Now we're heading into the top 3. Now we have Enter Sandman by Metallica. Here, there's a couple of ways of playing, and I'll show you the 2 standard ways. So this is the very first thing you hear at the start of the Metallica tune. It does vary later on and get heavier, but the very first instance of the riff is based around this pattern with an open E string, fret 7, 5, sort of making it ring out like a chord as well, and then 6, 5, 7, and that just goes round and round. So I'll do that again. 0, 7, 5, 6, 5, 7. So down, down, up, down, down, up. If you can with the pick. Down, down, up, down, down, up. Round and round. The other way of playing that though is to substitute the fret 5 G note with the open G string, 1 string lower down, which sounds a little bit different. A little bit harder because you've got to skip a string, and again you want to try and let it ring out. It gives that sort of ominous sound that it has. So picking again, down, down, up, down, down, up, down, down, up, down, down, up. Second last riff here in my list is Whole Lotta Love by Led Zeppelin. I've simplified this version to make it a little bit easier to play. On this one, I've also simplified it slightly to make it easier to play. In the real song, he's playing these power chord shapes, which can be a bit hard to play as a beginner, especially in the middle of a riff. So I've simplified it down to just the basic notes. So what we have is fret 7 on the E string, fret 5 on the first finger on the A string, back to the fret 7 note, back to the fret 5 note, so ba 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 ba. And again, if you can go down, up with the pick, that's cool. And then normally in the song with the power chord, but for simplicity, I'm just going to use the bass note, which is fret 7 there on the A string, which is an E note. And once we get there, we're going to do 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, sort of stuff. But with the riff, it's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. So it's only 3 different notes, but just the rhythm is a bit fiddly. And employing a quick down strumming with these 16th notes, which are quite fast, can be a bit hard. To make it sound more heavy and metal-ish, you can employ palm muting by resting your palm on the bridge of the guitar down here, so you're just sort of muting the string a bit with my picking hand, which makes it sound more heavy rock like Zeppelin, and especially bands like Metallica and that later on use that a lot for sort of heavy metal. And number 1 on the list here is Beat It by Michael Jackson. This one is a bit fiddlier because we're crossing multiple strings. It's a bit like the Enter Sandman riff in a sense in terms of difficulty, but there's a few more notes happening here. And so what do we got? We've got open E, second finger on 3, first finger on the 2, G string, which is third from the floor, skipping strings there. Number 2 on the D string, 4 on the D string, back to the number 2 on the D string, open D string twice. So let's do that first part of it. 0, 3, 2, open, 2, 4, 2, 0, 0. And try to make that flow. That rhythm can be a bit fiddly, but everyone's obviously heard that one before. The first time around it has the double D string, the second time around it has the single D string. So together, So I hope you had some fun learning how to play these riffs and get your fingers moving across the fretboard, picking different strings and getting used to how tab works. Subscribe to the Learning to Play the Guitar YouTube channel for more lessons, and don't forget to click on the bell to receive notifications when I upload a new video. You can also check out my books and more lessons at my website learningtoplaytheguitar.net. Thanks for watching and keep practicing.